Okay, so we are starting area. So area means how much space an object takes up. Okay, what do I mean by that? The area of the desk. Okay, we're talking about how much actual room this desktop has. That's what area means. Okay, so a polygon is a closed figure formed by 3 or more straight lines. Okay, so we're going to talk about a parallelogram today. So a parallelogram is a quadrilateral with opposite sides parallel and opposite sides the same length. It's kind of like a rectangle. It's just that it can be kind of diagonally, it can be kind of funky looking shapes. Whereas it's basically it's a rectangle. Okay, it's just they've moved it a little bit. A rhombus is a parallelogram with 4 equal sides, kind of like a square. But then again, it's kind of tilted again. Okay, it's a little bit different than a square, but basically the same thing. So it says fill in the lines in the diagram with polygon, parallelogram, or rhombus and draw an example of each. So let's start with, so this is kind of like a Venn diagram. All right, so this big one here would be classified as the polygons. Okay, it's all of them. Can you guys see that?
No.
Trying to find a good marker, but I can't. For some reason, mine are all gone. Okay, so a polygon can be any shape you want. Okay, it could be a triangle. It could be a rectangle. It could be a square. There's all kinds of different things. So, triangle, draw a rectangle, you do all sorts of stuff. Okay, so then the next one is parallelogram. Okay, so then now this is kind of like what a parallelogram looks like. It's kind of going diagonally like that. It's kind of like they grabbed a rectangle and kind of just shifted it a little bit. And then the last one is a rhombus. So this one is just a smaller version of the parallelogram. But it's a square for the most part. So they took a square and kind of tilted it. All right, so down here in the real world link, it says expert skateboarders can slide down the railings of stairs safely. Okay, so a parallelogram is used to build a staircase. How many sets of parallel lines are shown in the parallelogram to the right? So down here, this one right here. Okay, so remember, parallel lines mean they're vertically across from it or horizontally across, and they never cross, they never intersect. So how many sets of lines would there be there? Parallel lines in that parallelogram in the right, down at the bottom.
4.
Okay, so there's 4 lines, but how many sets of parallel lines?
2.
2. So there's 4 lines. So if you look down here, okay, so this red would be 1 set. The blue would be the other. So 2 sets. Okay, that's how parallel lines work. And that's how parallelograms are. Okay, they're always going to have 2 sets of lines that are parallel. So let's go on to the next page. Use this. Alright, so to find the area of a parallelogram, the formula is literally base times height. So the bottom, the base, this right here, or one of the sides, and the height. And you just multiply them. That's it. That's how you find the area of a rectangle. That's how you find the area of a parallelogram. That's how you find the area of a quadrilateral. Anything with 4 sides, you're basically doing length times width. Base times height. It's the same thing. Okay? So you're just multiplying today. For the most part, that's all area is. It's just multiplying a formula out. Okay? So you'll never have to memorize that, but it's not going to be hard to forget it. Okay? It's basically just base times height. So the base is just one of the sides of the parallelogram. The height is literally how it goes from the bottom to the top. And it's usually marked with like a red dotted line like that. This would be the height. Okay? So that's what we're going to be doing today, is finding the area of a parallelogram. All right? So, down here. So they're going to give you one on a coordinate plane, just like they did on example number 1. So once again, it's just base times height. So we're going to plug in base for B, and we're going to plug in the height for H. So looking at this, they don't label it with numbers, but you can count it. So let's count the height. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So your height is 8. So I replace H with 8. Then one of the sides. When I say the sides, not the diagonal ones. It's top or bottom. Okay? So then I count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then it's just 6 times 8. Which is what? 48. Now, since we're talking about area, you have to label these. We're talking about measurements. You always label area as units squared. So like this would be units, if I could spell, squared. Area is always labeled as squared. Inches squared, meters squared, feet squared. You always label area that way. Volume is cubed. We'll talk about that later. That's the next chapter. Okay, so let's do another one. So this one right here, it says find the area of this parallelogram. Example number 2. Okay, so looking at this, we know our formula is base times height. So looking at this parallelogram, what would be the base? What's the base of this one? 20. Remember, we want either the bottom or the top, not the diagonal sides. Just because that's labeled, that doesn't mean anything. You can literally cross that out because we're not worried about it. So our base is 20. What's our height? 11. So we do 20 times 11. So today, I'm going to let you use a calculator. If you need one, come up and grab one. If not, grab one real quick, and you're going to be able to use one today. So 665. They want you to find the area of each parallelogram. Okay? So number 1 here. So looking at this, okay, we're going to have to, we know our formula is area equals base times height. So looking at this one, what is our base for number 1? How big is the base?
4.
So we just count it out. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now the height. Count it again. 1, 2, 3. So what would be the area? 9. You ever do 3 times 3? So it'd be 9 units squared. Because we don't have an actual measurement when it's on a coordinate plane. It's just units. If they give you the measurements, then you have to put it. So like millimeters would be the next one. So when it's on a coordinate plane, you just literally count out the sides. You count out the base, count out the height. And then you just multiply base times height. That's it. It's a parallelogram. Okay, number 2. All right, so area equals base times height. What's the base here? 6. What's the height? 4. What's 6 times 4?
24.
So it's going to be 24 millimeters squared. Because area is always labeled as squared. Okay, same thing for number 3. Alright, so we have area equals base times height. The good thing is the formula will never change. It's always base times height. Most of the time, you're probably going to not even have to write it out once you get good at these. And you start practicing more. So, what's the base of this one? 8. So, the base is always connected to the height. Whatever the height is connected to like this, that's the base. So, what's the height? 9. So, what's 8 times 9? 72 centimeters squared. And that's it. That's how you find the area of a parallelogram. 2. Just like an exponent. Alright, so you guys go back, and I want you to do A and B back on page 663. A and B. Just by yourself. So go ahead and try that real quick. So, letter A. Okay, so this is on a coordinate plane, so we had to count it. So once again, area equals base times height. So what's the base of this one? 6. Okay, what's the height? 3. So what is our area?
18.
Units squared. Don't forget that or you will lose points. You have to label it. We're talking about measurement now. Okay, letter B. Area equals base times height. What's the base?
4.
4. Good. What's the height?
16.
16. So 4 times 16
16.
should be 64 meters squared. Any questions on this so far? So all you're doing is finding the area. That's all we're going to be doing this entire chapter. Finding the area of parallelogram. Then we're doing a triangle. Then we're doing a trapezoid. All different shapes. Okay, then we're going to move into volume and all that and start talking about three-dimensional shapes. So right now I want you to get with a partner and I want you guys to do 1, 2, and 3 on page 664. 664. Oops. Okay, so once again, area is just base times height. That's how you find these every time. Okay, I excel today. It's going to be 6FF4, I believe. Let me double check. Yep, FF4. It should have a star next to it already. FF4.
How long do we have to work on?
Well, you got the rest of the hour.
Well,
You got about